Even when I was a kid, I thought that Disney's animation was the most artistic and charming animation that ever existed. And that especially holds true to the older stuff, when Walt Disney was actually alive. And when I visited Disneyland, I always knew that I was there when I could see the train pulling into the Main Street station as I walked up to the front gates. It was just this magical experience. These days, I absolutely love the fact that the Disney theme parks are drenched in musical performances. And if you had to trace all of these things back to one man, it wouldn't be Walt Disney, but instead it would be Disney's eccentric head animator, Ward Kimball. Originally from Minneapolis, Ward Kimball wanted to be an artist from an early age, and when he went to Santa Barbara School of the Arts, one of his instructors told him that he should try out to be one of Disney's animators since his style was more comically based. At age 20, Ward Kimball would get a job for a then 33-year-old Walt Disney as an in-betweener, a job most animators start with, where they draw and trace characters in between movements. But it only took Ward Kimball 2 years to become one of Walt's lead animators, working on Silly Symphony cartoons and Mickey Mouse shorts. But his biggest credit would be as one of Walt's 9 old men. Walt's most trusted animators at the studio, and the team that would write, animate, and produce Walt Disney's first feature animated film, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Despite not getting his segment of animation into the film, Ward Kimball would come out the other side of Snow White as one of Walt's directing animators. He would create iconic character after iconic character, and always finding that balance between artistry and comedy. He would go on to create characters like Jiminy Cricket, the Crows from Dumbo, Jack and Gus, Lucifer the Cat, Pecos Bill, the Mad Hatter, and the Cheshire Cat. And he would direct animated scenes for the Three Caballeros, Mary Poppins, and Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and countless other features and animated shorts. Ward Kimball's animation style would become synonymous with the Disney name. His characters were just as eccentric as he was, but yet they were always full of warmth and care. There's a certain charm that comes with his characters and style of animation that still holds true today in those lighthearted, comedic moments throughout all of Disney's animated films. And you could probably trace the comedic sidekick character that we know and love from Disney princess stories back to Ward Kimball. But his role as an animator is only the beginning of his contribution to the Walt Disney Company. When Walt Disney saw television as the next medium to take over, Ward Kimball was pegged to write and direct many Disneyland TV series episodes. 3 of those episodes were about space. And normally with the Disneyland TV show, Walt Disney always played the host. But for the 3 episodes about space, Man in Space, Man in the Moon, and Mars and Beyond, it was Ward Kimball that hosted those episodes.
Here to tell you about it is director Ward Kimball.
When we hear the exciting news of how the rocket scientists of today are preparing for tomorrow's trip to the moon, we must remember that such a trip has long been the dream of many men since history began. But before we consider the scientific plans for a trip to the moon, let us first show you, as sort of a prologue, the results of our research into the legends and facts and foibles, superstitions of man in the moon. Roll the moon sequence, please.
He was a big space-age lover, and these 3 episodes of the Disneyland TV show are said to be the beginnings for many in the interest of space travel that would later become a huge part of the 1960s, where we would eventually not only put a man in space, but a man on the moon. But his inspiration would go beyond the TV screen, from the Disneyland TV show to the actual Disneyland park itself. When Walt Disney was growing up in Marceline, Missouri, he would watch the trains come in and out of town, and would eventually get a job selling candy to train passengers. He was a closeted train fan. But it wasn't until Ward Kimball invited his boss over for dinner one day where Walt really became the train fan we all know and love. Ward had several small model trains, but it was his giant steam train locomotive that went across 3 acres of land that he was really excited to show Walt Disney. And when Walt Disney finally saw the Grizzly Flats Railroad and got a chance to ride on it, he instantly fell in love. And Ward Kimball would help Disney build the small-scale train that would go all around Walt Disney's backyard. And Kimball would be the inspiration for a small park across the street from the Disney studios that would house a train ride that would go all throughout the Disney studio and be the home to a small amusement park. And that idea grew from a small amusement park to what we know today, Disneyland. And I'm not saying that Ward Kimball deserves full credit for the Disneyland idea. Not at all. There were many things that contributed to building Disneyland, but I will say that Ward Kimball was an integral part in creating that Disneyland atmosphere that included trains and eventually movement of all sorts that included boats, monorails, and people movers. And the Disney theme parks wouldn't be the same without all of these different modes of transportation. They wouldn't have gone from one park to the next, still creating those modes of transportation, and Walt Disney wouldn't have had that idea for Epcot that featured monorails and people movers and different modes of transportation throughout the city. And beyond being a train lover, he was also a trombonist and a band leader. He put together a bunch of Disney animators with some non-Disney animators to create the Dixieland jazz band, the Firehouse 5+2.
No, I play with a jazz band. I'm the leader and first trombonist of the Firehouse 5+2.
That's a very famous musical outfit, isn't it? Why do you call it the Firehouse 5+2? I never did understand that.
Because there's 7 of us.
Walt Disney allowed the band to record and travel as long as it didn't interfere with the work at the studio. And they did travel, moving from city to city, playing concerts. But most importantly, the Firehouse 5 called Disneyland their home, which made the Disneyland park a destination for live music and performances. The band was a staple of the early date night at Disneyland promotion, and the Firehouse 5 would influence Walt to continue to add musical acts throughout the park, not just having background music come from speakers, but having real bands, playing real music, and creating ambiance throughout the theme park. That idea of musical performances moved beyond Disneyland to all the Disney theme parks around the world. There's even still a band that plays outside of the Disneyland Firehouse, called the Firehouse 5, in tribute to Ward Kimball and his band. And just like the transportation idea, I can't see the Disney theme parks being what they are without the ambiance of live music. So between the music, the trains, the animation, Ward Kimball may be one of Disney's most influential people. That's not even all he did. He continued to direct films long after Walt Disney's death, and even helped create some of the attractions at Epcot, like World of Motion. But he should be remembered for giving Disney animation a style filled with charming comedy, for sparking the ideas that would make the Disney parks a place filled with movement and music, and inspiring a generation of people who would love to explore space. And for me personally, I love Ward Kimball's work. I feel closer to him than any of the other 9 old men when I see a lighthearted comedic moment in a Disney animated film. And growing up a fan of Disneyland, I can't imagine the Disney theme parks without any of their trains circling around the park, making those steam engine noises and hearing the bells as the train comes into the station. In fact, if you're at the Disneyland theme park, do what I do. Look out for locomotive number 5. It's named after him. It's the Ward Kimball. And maybe this is just some speculation on my end, but I don't think it's a coincidence that the firehouse on Disneyland's Main Street is also the home to Walt Disney's apartment. To me, Walt Disney and Ward Kimball weren't just people that worked together, but in fact, they were best friends. And maybe when you're at Disneyland, you can feel that the next time you see the Firehouse 5 playing out in front of that old firehouse. Look up into the window and just imagine Walt Disney sitting there, tapping his feet, looking out his window, and watching the legacy of his friend continue on. This video is definitely one that I loved putting together. Ward Kimball is somebody that I've always admired, and I've been kind of waiting to make this video, but if you have thoughts and ideas for other Disney legends that we should cover in this series, leave a comment below. Let us know who you'd like to see, whether it's one of the animators from Walt's age, or someone new, someone from Lucasfilm or Marvel or Pixar, or even the Disney theme parks. In fact, anyone underneath the Disney umbrella, as we like to say here. And if you love history videos like this and you're new to our channel, hit subscribe. We've got all kinds of Disney history content, theories, and much more. And if you specifically love the Disney Legends series or this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up. I would love to see those thumbs continue to grow. Thumbs? You know what I mean. And until next time, thank you for watching. I always appreciate you, my friends, and keep on moving, people.